Well, hey everyone, how we doing out there today? This is the Flip Flop Investor Show, and I am your host, Todd Bayer, the Flip Flop Investor himself. Every week we get together and talk about real estate investing here in the Inland Empire. And that, you know, for those of you that have never watched or listened to the show before, that's what we do. We talk about real estate investing. So every week we get together with a local expert or another fellow investor of some kind, and this week we have a very special guest, actually a repeat guest. You know, you've been on the show before, but we have this week Charlie Hustle. How you doing, Charlie?
Oh, good. Thank you for having me back. Actually, this is the third time I've been on this show.
Yeah, it is the third time.
Actually, but it feels really exciting more than the first time. I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
Oh, I think maybe because I got my both my sons here today.
That's true. Yeah.
Nathan Ortiz and Giovanni Ortiz.
Yep, we got the boys. Yep, we got an audience for once. Usually we're just a couple guys sitting in the studio all by ourselves. You know, it looks really fancy on camera. You know, all the people that are watching right now live, they see the logo behind us. They're like, wow, these guys are big-time radio broadcasters. But in reality, we're just real estate investors, and we don't really know what we're doing with the radio. Half the time, I swear they're just going to kick us off the air and cancel the show. But, you know, they keep inviting me back week after week. I don't know what's wrong with these people. Maybe they're not listening. I don't know.
Or maybe they are. And maybe you've just gotten better over the time and had better guests.
Who knows?
Who really knows?
Yeah, maybe the guests are getting better. That's a good point. Yeah. Well, today we have a great guest, so we're going to bring him out later. No, I just had to say it. Charlie, you are you're a hustler. I mean, that's and you call yourself Charlie Hustle. All right, you know. I think your name's really Charlie Ortiz, right? But you go by Charlie Hustle because you hustle, and that's a lot about this business. And we've talked to a lot of guys that have been in this business a long time, and that's what it takes. It just takes hustle.
It really does. You know, I say this all the time. If we've talked about it before. If you're comfortable, nothing is happening. If you're uncomfortable, then changes are happening. That's where you want to be. Mm-hmm. But what happens is too many people want to be sitting back in front of the TV or watching or on their on their cell phone, like my son over there.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that's what I try and really encourage is to really get out your comfort zone. As a matter of fact, this morning, before we got to the studio, we were out near the Claremont area.
Okay.
And that's exactly what we were doing. We were hustling. We were literally, there was four of us. We 2 different cars, and it was really driving for dollars. And really, what we really want to do is we really want to locate those distressed properties and get off and talk to the neighbors. Okay. And figure out what is going on with that house.
Yeah, that one blight on the street, that one house that has no yard and hasn't had a yard for a long time, has a caved-in roof and all that good stuff. Yeah. Everybody has seen these houses before. We're just the ones out there making offers on these things to buy them. But a lot of times you got to hunt down the owner.
Yeah, and I think it's more than that. I think when people are talking about when you're talking about real estate investing, first thing that comes in mind is you need a lot of money, which is not true.
Right.
When I did my first 2 houses, joint venture with you, and how much money did I use out of my my pocket?
Not as far as I know, unless you lied to me.
No.
Okay, you didn't use any.
Zero.
All right, well, yeah, then zero.
Zero money came out of pocket. So it is possible. It is possible when you're out there and you're going to be in the trenches, and you're willing to do all the work that most people are not willing to do. And what I'm saying is, instead of waking up at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, like wake your butt up like at 5 o'clock and be ready to rock and roll by 5:30.
Yeah, which means you got to go to bed at what?
You got. I mean, I try to be in bed before 11, and if it's anything past 11, I'm literally passing out with my clothes on and waiting for the next day, because the next day should be exciting for you.
It is.
You need to wake up. Like I almost feel like there's not enough hours or enough time in the day for me to hunt all these houses down. And so I left with the feeling of wanting more. So I want to go to sleep early in the morning just to wake up to hunt more houses down. Like hungry. Yeah. Like literally hungry.
But that's what the business is about. That's what hustling is. You got to be hungry. And the people, we see them, they come to the club every month, and we like having the new people coming, but Yeah, I mean, you can sort of pick them out in the crowd. You know who's gonna do well in the business almost from the first meeting because you can tell like you have no drive. You know, you have no push. I'm sure you've met these people. I mean, you tend to take some of these people under your wing and you'll show them how to like knock on doors and stuff sometimes.
So I was,
Yeah, you were for a little while
but
there.
not anymore because I really started buckling down and really focusing. So I got kind of really selfish. So
Okay.
I stopped going to the clubs.
Yeah, I know you did. We haven't seen you at the club for a while, and everybody's been asking about you. We talk about you every month. It's all bad, but you know we still talk about you.
You know, so I really buckled down, and I think you have to get really good at one thing, and so whatever that one thing is, be good at it. So if you're gonna be a flipper, become good at that. Like, you know everything there is to know. If you're gonna be a wholesaler, which is not the easiest thing to do, it is actually the hardest thing to do. But if you are gonna become a wholesaler, know everything and really like almost embed it and make it like almost like there's no choice, right? Like this thing is gonna happen. So when I was starting, there wasn't a question like, what if this doesn't work out? There was
Right.
only that commitment, and I knew I was gonna get there. I needed to get all the information that I needed to get started, and then just take all the action. So once you start failing and making all those mistakes, I mean, you're on the right pace. A lot of people think though that success is like is actually getting a big paycheck, but I say on the contrary.
Yeah.
I think success is when you make the attempt and fail at it, but are excited because you learned something and you know you're not going to make that mistake again.
Oh yeah. Well, that's definitely a sign of success for sure. You know, I totally agree with you. Because yeah, you're gonna fail in this business. You fail on a daily basis. You just have to be willing to try something, and every time pick yourself back up again and do something else.
Even when you think you know, you don't. You know, every time I go to a seminar and another real estate seminar or another real estate club, I'm like, and I pick up a nugget or a jewel. I'm like, oh my God, I never would have found this out if I was just at home watching TV and doing nothing.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. It didn't happen overnight. I didn't start doing deals overnight. As a matter of fact, it really started like last year where I really started. But everything prior to that was just learning and not getting paid and suffering and trying to figure this whole thing out. So no, it's not going to happen overnight. I know everyone has heard this before. I'm telling you from experience. You're going to do a lot of work and a lot of sacrifice, and at the end, I get the prize.
Yeah.
You know what the prize is for me right now? It's the prize is that I get to spend the summer with my two sons, and that they get to come to work with me. And if we decide that we're going to play hooky, we can. If we want to go to the beach, we can. If we decide that we're going to take the day off, we can.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the little perks. Most of the time, I don't, because I'm kind of like a hardcore fanatic of this whole game thing.
Absolutely.
I'm diehard.
Yeah. You're at it every day.
Yeah, and so even when I say I'm not going to work on the weekends, I'm going to, and sometimes I don't have a day off. I know, we're talking about education. I think education is really big and is really important. So
Yeah.
I know this Sunday we're going to be near LAX. I guess there's going to be another guy there that when he goes up to the doors, he leaves like little sticky notes, and he does things a little bit different. So I'm open to listening to what he has to say, with the hopes of learning some nuggets where I can come back and quickly implement that into the business right away.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, your primary form of deal finding is door knocking, right?
Yeah, I think so. We also use other strategies, mail, bandit signs. But I think that we eliminate a lot of the competition by going directly to the door.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean everyone should be going to the door and knocking, because frankly, most people that are knocking on the doors only have one person in mind, and that's themselves.
Oh, of course.
When I'm knocking on the door, so you get an idea, I'm offering a service. I'm offering them to explain some options. I'm talking to them and maybe and saying, hey, why don't we go get some coffee or some lunch, because I already know what they're experiencing and what they're going to experience.
Yeah.
And that's just my experience now.
Yeah, it's true. And and we've talked about this with like a lot of people on the show, that you're not going hardcore straight in and just offering to buy their home right there on the doorstep. And I think a lot of people fail in that. That's what they're thinking. They're going there and do you want to sell me your house? No. Then screw off. Like, they get mad at these people, and it's like that's not how you do it. That's not the art of the sale, right? You got to be able to. There's some finesse and there's an art to this. And, your method works really well for you, where you sort of get to know these people and you take them out to coffee or you go get something to eat. And that's a good way to just sort of, bring their barriers down a little bit and lower their guards so they can talk to you a little bit. And, it's a very important step that a lot of people forget to do. But that takes time to develop, the right way to do it. And I know you spend a lot of time getting doors slammed in your face.
Yeah, not so much these days. When you can provide a service to people, when you can be of service to people, when you can really bring something to the table, right? Something really tangible, okay?
Yeah, like when you're really trying to solve their problem.
Yeah, not too long ago, I think maybe a couple weeks, we're still working on this deal down in Paris. Gentleman, he mother died, never transferred title into his name.
Okay.
So now he's got to go through the probate process. He's also going to have to qualify now for this loan. And so to take it over, if that's what he wants to do. So he has no idea. He was going to spend about $5,000 from attorney. We help cut that cost down and saying, hey, listen, we work with paralegals. They're not attorneys, but they understand the paperwork. And it's less than half the cost of what you're going to pay. Right. So automatically, we say to them right off the bat, the $2,500 right off the bat. And secondly, they don't understand the probate process. They have no understanding of how to navigate through the probate courts. They don't know none of this, and we do. And what we want to do is hold their hand, and we want them to succeed. Right. Of course, yeah. At the very end, if they can't, then we'll have a conversation about buying their house. But that's towards the very end. And we tell them up front when we're talking to them, tell them who you are, why we're there, and we tell them how we make a profit right up front, like the very first conversation.
Yeah, and it should be always up front.
Yeah,
because there's less confusion. I've been involved in a bunch of different transactions where you get to the closing table finally with the seller, and then there's like a wholesaler involved, and they never told them that they were wholesaling the contract out to us and we're going to buy it. And suddenly there's this panic at the end where the seller's like, wait, what's going? Who's this other company? And now now there's tension in the thing, and I had nothing to do with that. They should have warned these people ahead of time that I'm not actually going to be buying the property. What I'm doing is putting the property into a contract that I'm going to sell to somebody else, and then they're going to close, and they're going to be the owner of the property. We've had issues with this too, where sometimes the owner will stay in the property for a period of time after we've closed escrow. Usually it's arranged ahead of time, but they're like sort of shocked to find out that the guy that they were dealing with this whole time is no longer the person they're dealing with. It's now somebody from our company. It's important to lay everything out ahead of time so they understand what's going on, because otherwise they're going to be confused, and sometimes they'll cancel transactions for those reasons.
I think transparency is everything. Even when I'm talking to a seller, even if they assume I'm going to be the money guy, I tell them, I'm like, listen, I want to be bringing my money partner on. He's the one with the real money.
Yeah, okay? Exactly. Yeah. And
I have money, but not that kind of money.
Yeah, so, like trust me, you probably have more money than I do.
So just being transparent. I think more than anything is this. I firmly believe people want to, they want to go from A to Z, and they miss all the steps in between. I think if you want to learn this business, you either have two things. You either have time or you have money. It's just one or the other. Yeah. Okay. If you don't have any money, well, awesome. This is gonna be real quick. This should be a real easy one.
Oh yeah.
You're just gonna be a bird dog, and that's what I did. And you're gonna learn the steps, by bringing someone to the table. And what I would do would be set up appointments, and then set up my investor to come in, and then I would listen. We're not talking about getting paid by the hour,
Right.
none of that.
Yep.
Where I receive the most currency is listening to the investor and what he really is saying to the seller.
Oh, absolutely.
That's where the secret sauce is at.
Of course.
It's not the moolah. It's not the dollar bills.
No,
And
it's not. Yeah, the actual terms of the deal come up at the end, and it's brief. You spend 5 minutes on that, maybe,
or less.
Or less. And most of the time you're just gonna be answering questions, if they have any. But you've already gotten to know them so well, they've gotten to know you that they already trust you, they like you, they haven't kicked you out of their house yet. So, you're gonna make the ask, right? You're gonna make the offer, or a series of offers, because sometimes there's multiple solutions, and you kind of want them to pick the one that they think is best for them. So it's a very different process than probably some people think.
Yeah, what also really helped is I heard another investor, and this gentleman, he had mentioned on one of his podcasts, he's like, if you want to get into real estate investing, start a handyman business.
Okay.
And so I was once I heard that, I started doing jumping jacks, and I started yelling like a crazy man.
Okay.
Because that's exactly what I did. And now I understand, because I started off as a handyman or unlicensed contractor.
Okay.
What I really figured is we're going to spend some time talking about the house, but the other time we're going to be talking about the house and the repairs. And so what really helped me was understanding the cost of repairs and what go into them. And so that I feel like I got an advantage of over other investors because I got a pretty good, solid understanding of all the moving parts. And so it also helped me understand negotiations, because if I didn't work, I wasn't getting paid.
Yeah, that's very true.
A lot of times I would be, I'd be negotiating, and they liked me, and I would really quickly, drop a contract by hand right there and then. And we would sign. They're like, when can you start? I'd say, like, right now. I'm gonna go back to my truck and get my tools, and you're just gonna sign right here, right now, and we're gonna do this right now.
Yeah. And that would probably shock a lot of people that you were able to start right then and there.
Yeah, and they were ready to go. And so I kind of took that same concept and just rolled it over into the real estate world.
It makes sense. And that's it's important to be able to do things where you have that much knowledge too. Also, to be able you can just drop the contract. You know what needs to be contained in that contract, and just do it. And it's a lot of people get hung up on this step. I've noticed it time and time again. People were like, they always ask me, like, what contract do you use? It's like, I don't. I most of the time my deals are coming through realtors. Like, they have their standard form contracts that they use. But most of the deals we've done where it's just been us negotiating the deal, we bullet point stuff. We don't write out some long contract. The undersigned blah blah blah. We don't. People don't understand that stuff. Like, give them plain English.
Yeah. You don't need a lot of jargon. Yeah. So I've done where I've gone paperless. So I've done transactions where it's been paperless. It's basically the contract is he said, she said.
Yeah.
And then I like a handshake.
Right.
I've also done contracts where I've had the sellers write out the contract based on what we talked about.
Yeah. And of course, since we're talking about contracts, we got to mention that we're not attorneys.
No.
Neither one of us. We don't know what we're talking about. This is for entertainment purposes only, of course. So if you're going to do this business, you need to consult with your real estate attorney and your CPA and any other professionals in your life to verify, what we're talking about today, or to suggest alternatives to what we're doing today. So, yeah.
I highly recommend.
I'll throw that disclaimer out there,
Yes, highly recommend.
And we're not selling securities.
No.
No, not at all. So don't even think that we're, there's no way we're not selling securities. You don't need to contact the Securities Exchange Commission and tell them, because we're not. I have nothing to sell. I'm just here talking. I'm a guy with a microphone and a headset, and, that's about it.
I think no, correct. I mean, I highly, I mean, especially starting this business, I would run everything through an attorney, and even now, I still do. But it becomes much more easier, you know, when you do this day in, day out. You do this every single day. I know pretty much, you know, what type of contract. If I'm going to write a real easy one, it might be a simple form, 1 page, really easy, and then maybe another time, you know, maybe I don't feel as cozy, and maybe I want to add a few lines in there, maybe to you know,
Sure,
to protect myself. And
of
so
course.
it all depends. It all depends. But you're right. That's the one step that you don't need to get hung up on. I think more than anything is getting that face to face with the seller and having that conversation. I think that's the most important piece.
Right.
The last piece, you know, even if you were, you know, write down, you know, buyer and seller, some terms, an escrow date, an escrow time, a few other things in there.
Yeah, names, address, you know, a date, signatures.
Simple.
You know, yeah.
Simple. As a matter of fact, the contract that I use, I actually got from you guys.
Yeah.
And I named it the Simple Contract.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the funny thing is that the real contract that you're going to close based upon is escrow instructions. Because
Yes.
escrow is going to take what you give them. You're going to say, here's the agreement we have between the seller and myself. And the escrow is going to take that, and they're going to drop these nice, you know, big old set of documents called the escrow instructions,
Yes.
along with a bunch of other stuff. You know, there's a lot of disclosures in there and all that stuff. That's the contract. Because, you know, when you sign with the seller, it's happened a ton of times where that's not even the real seller. They don't even actually own the property. They might think that they own it, or maybe they own a portion of the property. You know, we've dealt with plenty of situations
Yes.
where family members have, you know, this was mom and dad's house. Mom and dad passed years ago. You kind of mentioned a similar situation you're working on right now out in Paris, where, you know, it needs to go through the probate process. But the child just assumes this is my house.
Yes.
They might have been paying the mortgage for the last 10, 15 years, you know, because mom was incapacitated or something, you know. And, yeah, you're like, actually, you don't own the house. You know, your mom owns it, and she's not here. And
Yes.
actually, your mom and dad own it, and your dad's been dead for 20 years, you know. Like that's how it shows on title. So you have no right to sell it at this point. You have to go through the probate process. The court will decide who has the right to sell. Hopefully there was a trust, which obviously the house wasn't in it, but maybe there was a will, which might help a little bit convince the judge that this is the, you know, final wishes of the former owner, you know, and who knows? Well, you know,
It can get ugly.
probate can get real ugly, especially if there's a lot of, you know, nasty, like, disagreeing siblings
Yes.
and things like that. We've been a party to lots of stuff like that, and yeah, if you ever want to see how ugly it is, you can go to the probate court and go check out, you know, and see how these things go. You know, it's interesting, but, you know, boring.
Yeah, it is quite boring. But the last couple of deals I got were through probate, so we relearned a lot, and so we always. I kind of want to say I almost switched directions just a little bit.
Okay, let's do
or
it.
almost prepared a little bit more on the probate process, just because I got more of the probate process.
Yeah. Probate's you know, I mean, hey, let's talk about it since you're going down this road. I mean, probate's well, we haven't really talked about probate much on the show, but we've gotten a significant number of deals that we've had to put through the probate process, or they've already gone through it, you know, whatever. It's a common thing. I mean, it's a common situation that people run into where the owner of the house died. What do you do with it at this point? It has to go to something or somebody. And so if there's no instructions on what to do, and title has a bunch of different vesting things, right? You've seen most people they own their property with the husband and wife and under joint tenancy. That's
exactly what I was
most
gonna say.
common you're going to see, but there's several other ones that a lot of people don't know about. You know, there's right of survivorship, community property. There's all these different ones you can do. You can own it as an entity. You know, you can own it as a trust. There's a lot of different ways you can own a property. There's tenant in common, like all these different things, and all that really pertains to is what happens to the property when one of the owners dies. Like that's the point of it. And so joint tenancy, when one tenant dies, when one owner dies, if it's a husband and wife, it just automatically goes to the other person that's on title, and then they have the rights to do with it whatever. But once they die, if you haven't transferred it or done something else like put it into a trust, then it's going to create a probate situation, and that's where probate figures it out.
Yeah, and not only that, but I think people assume because there was a will or they had a notary and there was some sign that that's going to hold up in court, but it really it doesn't hold up in court.
Yeah, it doesn't guarantee the outcome.
No.
It can outlay like what somebody's final wishes might have been, and if nobody contests it, then it'll go through. But oftentimes when there's a $300,000-$400,000 house on the line and somebody stands to make a pretty decent chunk of money, all of a sudden, brother and sister that were getting along, and they had a total agreement about this back then, back 10, 15 years ago, all of a sudden, like, sister's like, wait a minute, I want my $200,000 from this, and yeah, it can create some problems.
It definitely gave me, I think, more gray hairs.
Yeah.
And it gave me, I became more knowledgeable. I almost feel like I became more mature. And that, because it's a different,
it's just little streaks of wisdom popping out of your head. That's all it is,
Because, of course, you already know. There's a short probate, which, the mini probate, and that could be, up to 3 months. And then there's a full-blown probate, which could be, anywhere from, like, I don't know, 8 to 10 months. I've seen it as much as a year.
Yeah, we're dealing with one that's been over a year now.
Yeah.
We're currently in one where it's probably going to take, once it's all said and done, maybe about a year and a half.
Yeah.
It's a situation where somebody who thought they had the right to sell and was occupying the property, had no right to it. And even now that we've gone through probate to some degree at this point, we're finding out he had no right and will not get anything from the sale. So we had to kind of reestablish the relationship with the person that does have the right, and it's like getting finalized soon, but it's been a while. And yeah, some probates can be real real ugly.
That's always fun, trying to get the decision maker. Like you said, a lot of times you think that you are, and they're telling you everything that you want to hear, but until you get all the concrete facts, you will really know. I like every time I'm talking to someone and I'm gonna hear them out, but until I got the papers in my hand and I could really read, I'm like, okay, I'm seeing with the principal, interest, taxes, insurance. I can see it, so I know, right. Or I don't know if I have anything. Maybe if we contact the lender, the loan servicer, and they tell me what the payoff demand is going to be, okay, I know. But other than that, I never assume.
No, you can't. Yeah, because they might say I got this loan back in '98, and it's whatever is what they got the loan for, but you don't know what their payment history is like. You don't know if they've defaulted. I mean, we can find that stuff out, but you don't always know what the extra fees are going to be or what they've paid it down to. You got to call them up and get the direct number, and it's people lie.
Yeah,
people lie all the time.
And it's your job, it's my job to become like a mediator. So that's I'm a mediator, walking them through the whole process.
Oh yeah.
Especially
with like divorce. Have you dealt with any divorce?
No, not yet.
Okay, yeah, that can be a lot like a mediator. You almost feel like a marriage counselor sometimes.
I was working on one, but I didn't succeed because they ended up going with a realtor.
Okay,
but
enjoy that.
I know through probate, it can turn directions really quick. Typically, if there's more than 3 brothers and sisters, I could almost imagine right now there's gonna be kind of a nightmare. The court, they're gonna assign a probate referee, and ultimately they're gonna elect one person to be the PR. That the PR is a personal representative, right? And so a lot of brothers and sisters in a big family that don't agree may agree or may not agree,
right?
And so if they're contesting, now you have other things that are coming up. And then sometimes, you know what I really like about investing is that sometimes you just don't know.
Right.
And sometimes it's like imagine you're like at Disneyland going on like some, what is it called? The Looney Tunes where you get taken down like a Tiny Toons, or where you get taken down like a black rabbit hole.
Okay.
You don't know, and you're just on for the ride.
Yeah.
Because people will pop up out of nowhere, and things are always just happening on the go.
Suddenly, Uncle John, he did a bunch of work on the house back in 1981, and he says that they've always owed him for the roof that he put on and whatever they did to the home. But it's where's your documentation? Where's your proof? and the probate court's going to probably throw that out and say, sorry, you're not entitled to anything without proof. You didn't have a lien, no agreement, no note. You have no claim. You have no. But everybody can come forward at that point. I mean, if you feel like your neighbor's house, you feel like you deserve something out of their probate, you can just show up at court and say, I'm a party to this transaction.
You could.
You could. And sometimes stuff like that happens. Actually, that same deal that we're working on a long time, the neighbor is arguing over the property line. That's part of it.
Ours?
No. This is one that we're working on. The one that we've been working on for over a year, almost a year and a half now.
Okay, is that the high desert?
It's out in Paris.
Oh, okay. No,
but yeah, they like the neighbors arguing over the property line. They had an agreement at some point that this easement that this neighbor was using for a driveway or some kind of access road. It's just an argument. And it's like the neighbor came into the probate like we didn't expect this to happen. Here comes the neighbor claiming he owns part of this land that we're going to be. And it's like a 10-foot sliver. There's plenty of land. We're not. It's not like we're trying to like take it from the guy, but this is what's in the assessor's data. This is what the lines are. Like, where's the agreement? You can't prove that this was ever established.
No.
If he wants it, we'll be happy to sell him those 10 feet and do the lot split and all that great stuff if he really wants to do it. But, he has no claim, but he's still making the claim. And they got to hear him out, because maybe he does, but they don't have anything in writing.
Maybe a surveyor came out and maybe he has a plot map that no one knows of.
Exactly, but he can't produce it, and that was actually asked for.
Really?
If you have a drawing, because anything, like anything that can be proven. But I mean, still, when it's dealt with real estate, it's got to be notarized too. Yes. Like you can't just say like I'm going to give John this little 10-foot sliver of my land over here so he can get his truck back there, like. You can't just do that and sign it. You have to have it notarized because, you're not going to be able to speak for yourself. Instead, you have to rely on this notary that says, yes, he actually signed. This is John's signature. That's what a notary is for, is to just say, yes, that was the real person that signed this document. So in real estate, it's always got to be notarized. And so, with even if you have like a nice agreement all drafted up and, you can even have a dab of your blood on there. It wouldn't make a difference. It's got to be notarized. So... But maybe we should walk through the probate process a little bit from the get-go. Like you find a house, son's living in it, mom passed. It's a probate situation. You've already determined because he's trying to sell it, but he doesn't own it. What's your first step? Like, what do you do?
Okay, well, there's going to be a cost in starting that process. So first thing I want to know is if they have the money to start this process because they're going to need some money.
Okay, so what kind of money are you talking about?
It's really not much to just get the probate started. With We the People, they're not attorneys. No. They're a low cost. I think they're paralegals.
They're document prep.
Yeah,
is what they do.
Yeah,
they're a document prep service.
So first thing that I want them to do is get that started, and I think they can get started for as low as between $800 and $1,100 to get the process started.
Yeah, check with them, of course, if you're gonna, Yeah.
Yes, but I think ultimately, it's gonna be around $2,400-$2,500. That's altogether with the paperwork the
filing fees and all that good stuff. Yeah,
and they got a breakdown. They got a breakdown of so whatever it is that we were trying to do. They already got a breakdown of how much it's going to be.
Well, yeah, and it has to be disclosed.
Yes,
it does. Yeah, and if the attorney, if you're gonna, if there's an attorney involved, he has to disclose what he's going to make. He or she, I should say, he or she. They have to disclose it. It's just, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Transparency. Everybody has to know what's going on. They don't want to get sticker shock at the end of your probate thing and be like, wait, what is this bill for? Because they'll bill you. They won't forget to get paid.
No.
Attorneys they have really good accounting departments.
And memories too.
Yeah, they do. They have great memories. And contracts to back it all up.
Yes.
So you start the process with like a We the People or some other doc prep, but you could start with an attorney. There are lots of probate attorneys out there.
Yeah.
So that would be your first step. Find out if they have the money to do it, and if not, what you're gonna ask? You're gonna say like maybe I could pay for it.
Well, we're a resource. So the company's name is the Homeowner Resource Group. Mm-hmm. So we want to try and provide resources, like real tangible resources. So I want to see what they want to do and what means they have right now. So, for example, if they want to keep the property, then I'm only assuming that they're working, right? That they're employed,
Okay.
right? And that they're going to make some efforts to, to cure the arrears. Oh, excuse me. That's only if they were default.
Right.
If they're, and that's another thing. Sometimes the property's in default. So I'm going to take that scenario
Okay.
because I run into that more.
Sure.
Property's in default. They've gone into pre-foreclosure. No one has title to the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then mom and dad died, and maybe son's living there.
Right.
So
It's always a son, isn't it?
yeah. If he wants to keep it, then we're going to talk about that process. If he wants to keep it, we're going to talk about that filing fee, all the paperwork that he's going to have to gather, and then I'm going to set up an appointment for him to go see We the People, right? And then they're going to be walking them through what they're going to be doing as far as like handling the paperwork with the courts. Okay, the conversation goes a different way if he can't qualify along the process. So along the process, let's say that he does get title. Let's say that he goes through the probate. Let's say that he successfully, the court says, you, Todd Bayer, now have title to 123 Main Street. Okay.
Sweet.
At that time, two things are going to happen. If you have not been able to secure a loan, then more than likely the loan servicer is going to accelerate, and they're going to want their money up front. So if you don't have all the money up front, and if you haven't secured a loan,
Right.
that's where I'm going to come into place. But only until we've gone through all that first.
Right. Yeah, and I guess in my experience, there's not a large number of people that want to keep the house. I've found a good majority of them. They're looking to sell it. They're not looking to stay in it. I remember one we had done where the guy was living in there. He was born in this home, and he lived there all the way until his mother passed away, and he never moved out. That was his home, and this was his time. He decided to move out at that point. Like, he didn't want the house anymore. Man, was that place a mess. But yeah, it was. It was, like this, he was finally moving out at age 65. He was going to go off on his own. I'm like, but yeah, they don't seem to ever want to keep him.
So whatever the sellers, whatever they're wanting, that's what I'm going to be I'm going to achieve to help them. Once I find out like they're not working, then I'm going to, we're going to have a different conversation. But say they do want to sell the house. Right, and then they don't have the money. Then I'm gonna talk about them successfully. We're gonna talk about successfully them getting title, and then selling the house to Homeowner Resource Group.
And then, so now
so if they don't have the money, then
you've jumped over a few steps. Let's go back a little bit. Okay. Back to, you've now filed your paperwork with the court. You're gonna get a date set, right? They're gonna set you a date to come in and basically explain everything to the court, and then there's also a period of time where people can come in, and you have to actually write down like who all the people are that are potential heirs to the property, or to the decedent.
Anyone that got interest in the property. That could be anyone.
It could be.
And we could do the heirs. It could be cousins, and a lot of times it's friends, because they were the caretakers, or whatnot. Those people will show up too.
Sure, yeah, or that girlfriend that he married right before he passed. So yeah, but yeah, there's a point where everybody has to show up, and everybody kind of states their claim, and if it's all just people talking, the judge has to make a decision based upon what they're hearing from all this. And after some time, sometimes you have to go back and forth. You have to come back to court. There's times we might have to get into a mediation situation where you have to, bring in a mediator to get the family to sort of work together. It can drag out.
And I've done that. Me and Miguel have actually have gone. Miguel's from the Homeowner Resource Group. We've actually gone to court with a seller, and we were in a transaction with another investor, and his seller. They happen to be. They all happen to be related. Okay. And so there was 3 properties, and so they had possession of 2. We were going to get possession of one of the burned properties, but there was a misunderstanding. All of us showed up to court. they put us aside to one room, and then ultimately they separated all the investors, and then just had the family talk. And they agreed because we had already previously, all of us had agreed, and we went to court, and the judge said, okay, do you agree, seller? Yes. Do you agree, seller? Okay, yes. Okay, everyone's agreeing. And so then we were able to move forward on the transaction.
Yep.
But if no one agrees, that property was already a nuisance. It was a fire property.
Oh.
And it had been sitting there for more than a year. So the city had a lot of eyes on it. So if, my seller, if she would have missed court, or if the other seller would have missed court, then potentially no one would have got the property, and everyone would have lost. In this case, we all showed up. We all agreed. I knew the other investor, and so we were able to work things out, with a kind of a family dispute. So we were like you were saying, the mediator.
Yeah.
Before we showed up to court. And then when we showed up to court,
yeah,
everything turned out pretty well, but they don't always go that way.
Right. Yeah, and it's important that you helped walk the seller through the process too, because most people don't know what they're doing. I mean, I don't even fully know what I'm doing with probate. I've never fully done one completely by myself. It's I've seen the process go, but I hire the people that know what they're doing, because that's how I've always done things. Like I just hire the right people. I don't I don't try to learn and know every single thing. It's like I need to know enough to be dangerous, but I don't want to do that. That's not my job. I don't specialize in probate. So, we have a probate attorney that we've worked with numerous times. We've worked with We the People. It's just, let the experts handle it. But it's important to kind of be there along the process to sort of, make sure the seller, if they have any questions for you, I mean, like you say, be a resource.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. So I know enough to be dangerous. We're not probate attorneys.
Right.
We don't claim to be probate attorneys. We don't want to be probate attorneys.
No.
We don't care about probate attorneys.
Oh, well, I care about that.
What my job is to, successfully navigate the seller through that process. And so sometimes it's intertwined. And so what I'll do is just pass it off to another probate attorney that we know.
Right. Yeah.
And we'll let him deal with it.
Sure.
And you know what? He can deal with that headache. And if we get a check from that, that's awesome. And, we were able to help out someone, that needed some help.
So I guess once the probate's done, everything's been agreed upon, now you can close the transaction like a normal real estate purchase.
Yeah. The only thing is that, the attorney wants to look over the paperwork.
Well, yeah, you're going to have them want to, stick their nose in there, but
so you might have to change a few things. I don't know why they do that.
We did a probate deal with that bullet point contract.
Oh, yeah.
And there was an attorney that was looking in for the family trust. It checks out. It checked out for us, but again, check with your attorney before you use a bullet point contract on anything out there. Yeah. So that's cool. Probate. Yeah, I didn't expect to get into probate with you today, but I'm glad we did, because we haven't really talked about it much on the show at all. So, for all the listeners out there, you're lucky today. You got some probate stuff.
This is something I'm going to throw a curveball. Here's my curveball. The curveball is that if you start taking care of yourself and really want to do better, like we were in that weight loss competition.
We were.
Okay.
I lost.
Me too. Okay.
We got beat out by a guy who starved himself. I think we just didn't want to starve ourselves.
Steven should have won.
He should have. He didn't starve himself, and he got in second.
Yeah.
So,
but he kind of did it to himself there. He admitted the last couple of days.
He did. He was trying to game the system and loaded on carbs. I don't know what he was thinking.
I'd rather have Billy won though than Steven, even though I like Steven.
Yeah, we like Billy, and I'm glad Billy won. That what he did, he starved himself, sticking to like a 700 calorie diet and like running and doing like exercise. I don't know how he managed to like keep that going. That's tough. I mean, I've eaten low calories before. 700 would be tough. Like, that'd be tough to do for one day, let alone 60. So
I know I couldn't do it, and not only that, but we have the same trainer.
Mm-hmm. Okay? We do.
I also have a triathlon trainer down in Temecula. Yeah, shout outs to Lucci.
You're gonna do a triathlon?
In 2019, I want to do a full triathlon. I've only done the kiddie ones.
What's a kiddie
ones.
one? What's that?
A kiddie one is where you swim 700 yards.
Okay.
You bike 13 miles and you run 3 miles.
Okay, so it's like a half.
No, not even a quarter.
Not even a quarter.
A full triathlon is a full marathon, which is
26.2. Yeah.
And then it's also the bike is 112.
Okay, miles. And then how long do you have to swim?
It's the mile. It's either 3 or 4 miles. I'm not sure.
Wow.
So not.
And where do you swim? Is it like on the ocean or like a lake or where?
The one I did was down in San Diego. It was in the bay.
So you swam in the ocean?
Yeah.
But not with waves and stuff. It was in the bay.
Yeah.
Do you like swim around the bay? Or
Yeah, I have down in what do you call it down over there in near Lake Elsinore? What's that called?
Lake Elsinore.
That gated community.
Oh, Canyon Lake.
Canyon Lake. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you swim Canyon Lake.
Yeah, I've done some practices there with some other people also training. So
And he's still alive today from being in Canyon Lake. Congratulations.
it is exhilarating. It is exhilarating once you start.
It sounds exhausting.
Yeah,
But exhilarating. Okay, cool.
It's more exhilarating than exhausting. It's really exhilarating because you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and you're pushing yourself to do more. And I relate that to this business.
Yeah. It's, and there are a lot of similarities between like athletic training and this business because it's about pushing and like, yeah, there's a ton of times that like this morning was one of those days for me. Like my alarm went off and I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed, but I got stuff to do. I had a meeting this morning I had to get to, and of course kids are back in school now. So we got to get that, get everybody up, get everybody going. It's like, there's been plenty of times where I just don't feel like doing much during the day, but there's like another side of me that's like, can we relax yet? Like, are we at the point in our life where we can relax? No, like we got to keep pushing.
Yeah.
And so, like you got to just kind of pick yourself up and go do what you're supposed to do. Like I know I have this big contract sitting on my desk right now that I need to go through, and I'm like, on my drive over here, I'm like, when am I going to find the time to do this? But I got to do it. It's a big thing for the next phase of our business, and I got to go through it. I have this thing I got to, whenever we do these things, we always have the attorney draft up this stuff. Whether we got to go through and check the attorneys and make sure that they're not putting in a bunch of stuff we don't want, or that they're not leaving things out that we do want. So it's no fun going through hundreds of pages of a contract. But it's got to be done. So it's like, you just have to kind of like motivate yourself and, be like eyes on the prize, right? And what is the prize? Well, there's a lot of, I don't know.
It's whatever you want it to be. For me, it is spending, more time with my sons.
Mm-hmm.
It's being able to do more things.
Yeah. And with the triathlon, what's your prize? Because is there actually a prize to win? Some I've heard don't even give prizes to win.
The prize would be to finish the contest before 17 hours, because after 17 hours, right, it ends.
So it's disqualification.
Yeah. So the prize is to finish before 17 hours. Remember, it's 2019 of November.
Okay, so you got over a year to train.
Yeah, which is not much time.
No, it's not. You got to start running like.
I haven't.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, I'm no expert in training, but you got to start riding and like biking, swimming. Swimming's tough. 4 mile swim. That to me is like.
When you don't do it, on a consistent basis, it's hard.
Yeah.
But when you're doing it 2 and 3 and 4 times a week, it becomes easier.
Mm-hmm.
And the same with biking.
Yeah.
I biked down the Temecula wine country like 30 miles. It was the most I ever did.
Wow.
And I was like, my trainer, she was like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Can you do this?" I was like, I'm gonna go for it. And, she literally said, you almost cried. Like, I've never heard those names. She said, you almost cried like a baby, but you got to push yourself.
Yeah.
Push yourself out of the comfort zone.
Yeah. And I'm sure your trainer's probably done many triathlons, right?
Yes. And so that's why we get with people that got more experience than us.
Yeah. And they can tell you when you're hitting kind of a slump in energy or something, reach for this particular thing. You want to eat this, or, like they know what to do. They have these little tricks.
Yeah. It's almost like when I got a real estate question, and I bug you and Steven.
Yeah.
I know that you guys know.
Yeah, we might. We'll at least give you an answer. It's probably not right, but we'll tell you something. So Are you going to start coming back to any of the clubs anytime soon?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, I want to show up with a new, like a new spirit of like energy, new maturity, you know, another transformation. And so I decided just to, sometimes I do this. I just cut everything out.
Yeah.
And I just focus, and then no one exists.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I try and dial in. So I kind of, that's where I'm at right now. I am gonna start coming back, but I find myself just really like, just dialing it in without the fluff.
Yeah.
With all the extra, you know, extra BS.
So I mean, you know, I don't think the club is entirely fluff. It's super beneficial. Like it's
No. As far as like as far as me,
Yeah.
you know, how should I put this? I've decided to focus more and dial in my target,
Mm-hmm.
and do the fluff is all the extra stuff that doesn't get me anywhere.
Okay.
It's personal.
Yeah.
So, you know, so I was doing like a revamping of the company of like, you know, and so I think like every 6 months, I'm always trying to, you know, revamp, you know, whatever it is.
Of course.
And I shut everything off to focus and try and dial it in. So.
Yeah, I mean, we've done it numerous times where, you know, we push real hard and push, but then we kind of break the system that we've built, you know, and when the system breaks means we need to now upgrade it. We need to now do something to it that's going to make it more efficient. So we find all the pain points, and you know that that's a tough process because you spend all this time to build the organization to begin with, but then whenever you need to make some changes, you know, do some spring cleaning or whatever, there's these little things that happen, and you're just like, oh man, okay, so we got to go back and completely, you know, redo the whole intake process, or we have to completely redo the whole rehab process, or whatever the process might be. And you know, sometimes it's all of it you got to do. And I mean, we've sat down with our entire team before and like had meetings where it's like, okay, where's the miscommunication happening? Like okay, let's walk through a deal, and we go through the nature of a deal where everything that could go wrong we bring up. So, you know, it's a long conversation, but we've had it multiple times with our whole team, and we address every single thing and say, okay, so how can we fix this? You know, this is an issue. What do we need to do? Who's getting notified? What's the trigger? You know, and like when you try to run a more efficient company, it's like you need to have better communication across all your different departments. And yeah, that's what you guys have been doing, like, and I've seen it happening. You know, every time I see you guys are like, you know, doing more and more stuff. So it means you guys are becoming a lot more efficient, which is good.
Yeah, and like I said, you know, we're always trying to tweak it up. And like I said, when I said fluff, it was like there's things throughout my whole day that I do that I don't need to do. I only need to concentrate, like that 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
I only need to concentrate on 20%. That's going to create the 80%. So
yeah,
I try to really dial it in and try and focus. And you know, we can't always hit target, but as long as we're shooting in that direction, we're going to be much closer to hitting our target.
Hey, well, that's about all the time we have for today. We have, for all those of you that want to come meet us, come to the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club. We meet on the fourth Wednesday of every month at the Mission Inn in Riverside. Go on meetup.com, look up the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club. We'd love to meet you and teach you more about what we know. I want to thank you, Charlie, for coming out, and thank you all for tuning in today. We'll see you all again next week. Have a good week, everyone. Take care.